Hello and welcome to an Elder Scrolls 5 Armour Enchantment guide for the Thieves Guild. Today I'm going to be walking you through which pieces of armour you should or maybe wanting to enchant in the Thieves Guild after completing the quest under new management. You get to enchant one piece of armour by going to speak to Tonnelier, who's nicely displayed there. And she will allow you, as I said, to enchant one piece of armour. What it will do is take the original stats from the piece in which you select, either the hoods, the armour itself, the gauntlets or gloves, or the boots, and it will increase the stats on that as well as the value. Okay, then the first piece of armour in which we're going to analyse within this tutorial guide is the Thieves Guild hood. Before you trade it in with Tonnelier, the enchantment on it is prices in shops and people you go buy off are 10% better when wearing this piece of armour, but if you trade it in, this will increase the enchantment from 10% to 15%, which obviously is quite a good reduction, especially if you're buying very expensive items. 15% is obviously a lot better than 10%. However, you're always going to be having to wear this piece of armour or equipment in order to get these price reductions. So if you happen to get some better armour such as the Nightingale and then you go to a shop and forget to put this hood on, that 5% increase in the prices is kind of redundant. Okay, then the next piece of equipment in the full Thieves Guild armour setting which we are going to analyse is in fact the main upper body piece of armour, which would be the chest plate when you're using heavy armour. The enchantment which is initially cast on this is that it will increase the carrying capacity of your character by a whole 20 featherweight, which by itself is obviously very good. So if you get over encumbered and you happen to have this piece of armour on your character, you can obviously equip that in order to allow him to fast travel. So that's always a good thing to have. But after trading in with Tonnelier, this increases the enchantment from 20 increased carrying capacity to 35, which personally I think is a great increase. And 35 means you can go pick up, down a dungeon somewhere, you pick up some pretty intense armour like a full Daedric armour set and sword, which are obviously quite heavy, and you need to increase your carrying capacity in order to get it back to your house and store it. It's always good to have that extra carrying capacity. So personally this is what I went for when I was doing it, but that was probably because I was an Imperial and didn't really concentrate on stamina. I was more health magic. I did a bit of stamina, but I felt if you've got this piece of equipment on you along with like a leather boots of hauling, there's no real need in doing stamina apart from for the critical strikes and bigger hits. But personally this is what I'd advise you to go for. The value on it is in fact 1,300 coin as well, so you could probably sell that for about 800 if you really wanted to, but I think it's going to be more use to you if you just keep it, and just keep it for times when you get over encumbered. And it personally, over the 40 hours or so which I've played, the amount of time I've used this because I've wanted to pick things up and get it back to my house I've lost count. But personally this is what I would advise you to go for, but I digress. So I'm going to take you on to what's going to be the gauntlets now, and I'll walk you through that. Okay, and then moving on to the gauntlets or the Thieves Guild gloves. Before you trade it in with Tonnelier, the enchantment on it is lock picking is 15% easier, which personally I think is a very good thing to have on its own. So if you're wearing those and you've got to break into this part of the Thieves Guild quests, or you just fancy breaking into this really nice house, that's going to come in very handy. Just make sure you're wearing them. But after trading it in, it is in fact increased to 25%, so 1 in 4 times or a quarter the lockpicking is going to be easier. So obviously that is a very nice thing to have and very handy. But obviously you're going to have to, as with every piece of armour in the Thieves Guild with the enchantments, you're going to have to be wearing it at the time in order for that enchantment to come in handy. But if you're struggling with lockpicking, I think this probably is the way to go for you. But personally, as I said, I went for the carrying because I just like carrying stuff like potions just in case you get into a bit of a sticky situation. But if you are struggling with lockpicking, this might be the one in which you might want to go for, because there is a lot of locks in which you can pick in the game, such as like chests, and if it's a quarter easier you don't need as many lockpicks and you won't struggle or end up running out as quickly as you would without the extra 10%. But I don't know how much the 10% actually is going to help. I think 15% is probably good enough by itself, so I would advise you, if you are struggling, go for it. If not, the armour is probably a better way to go. Okay then, lastly but not least, we are moving on to the Thieves Guild boots. Before you get them, before you go in to trade them up to increase the enchantment on this item is pickpocket success is 15% better, and after trading it in, it increases it to 25% better, so the same as the lockpicking gloves, just with pickpocketing on boots. Personally, I don't think this is very useful because you hardly ever go around pickpocketing anyone, and I think the 15% is good enough on its own, unless you feel you've got to go around stealing stuff out of everyone's back pocket. Go for it, but if not, I think this is probably the worst option to go for out of all the 4 items in which you can choose from. Okay then, I do hope you have enjoyed watching this rather instructional tutorial for the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on the Thieves Guild's Armour Enchantment Guide. So as you can see here, I'm just going through what I went for, and you can see I've got the Thieves Guild armour as the value of 1300, so that's what I went for with the increased carrying capacity. Personally, I would advise you go for that, but obviously you're your own man, so do whatever you want. If you have enjoyed this tutorial and like to see more, hit that subscribe button which is at the top left. You can click on my channel and then go on there and subscribe. If you have enjoyed this tutorial as well and it has been very helpful and instructional, maybe leave a like, favourite and comment, and I will see you guys next time.